The Kevin Long Show is brought to you by Southgate Media Group. You can find us on southgatemediagroup.com. The Kevin Long Show is brought to you by Podlife, a book from the Southgate Media Group about podcasters. The Kevin Long Show is also brought to you by Tweaked Audio. For totally awesome headphones, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty, go to tweakedaudio.com and in the promo code, type in Southgate, and you get 30%. Or you can get there through our link, southgatemediagroup.com. The music for The Kevin Long Show is The Entertainer by Kevin McClellan of Incomputech.com. Royalty-free music, as long as you give the dude his props. But there is also some legal stuff in the show notes, just to be safe. All right. It's that time of the week again, and I guess it's not really that time of the week, because it's a special edition. I'm your host, Kevin Long, and with me today is Jay from Halk Games?
Correct.
And today we're going to talk about him and his adventures, and more importantly, his Kickstarter. So let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing, what you've done.
All right. I'm Joe Bingaman. I run Halk Games. The name of the company is the first name of everybody in our family unit that works for the company. You have myself, my daughter Haley, my son Alex, my daughter Lori, my wife Karen. What I've done, let's see. We'll start with what got me in was Valor Palace of the Disco Emperor that I wrote under Luke Gygax's request at GaryCon 11, and it has kind of spiraled from there into a pretty decent OSR product.
Nice.
And right now we're working on our first Kickstarter, or trying to.
That's fair. So the other adventures that you've written, like the Disco Emperor and the Missing Villagers, are they part of the setting that the Kickstarter is about, or are they separate from the campaign setting?
They're written to be more of a setting neutral, cool. But I have based them all in it. The town locations I've used are all towns, villages that exist in it, so it can fit in, but they don't need to.
That's cool.
You can drop them in it any scenario you want, just like you can drop the campaign setting into anything you want, because it's technically not its own world. It's a demi-plane.
A demi-plane like Ravenloft, or like...
Yes. I can't say that name because that's not my intellectual property, right. But yes, that it would be similar to that.
Cool. So, the Kickstarter that will have a link in the show notes and also has a link on the Facebook page for the Kevin Long Show is The World of Drummond. Did I say that right?
It's Durban. Durmin.
Perfect. And it is a campaign setting for old school role-playing games. And it has 14 days left. So let's tell us about the setting. What are we getting ourselves into?
You're getting yourselves into a demi-plane that is very much a sandbox, like the first box set for in AD&D was with I can't name that one either. It came out in 1983. And Darlene did the map for it. That's all I'll say on that. But it's very sandboxy like that. There's a little lore that I give as a background history, because originally this world was one large continent. It had a cataclysm. There are now 4 separate continents.
That's cool.
And there's also other things that have happened in the world. New races have sprung up because of the cataclysm, other races have, out of necessity, during just afterwards, after a massive cataclysmic event like that, you do anything you can to survive. Some have, like you'll see half dwarves. You'll see what we call quarterlings, which is a half human, half halfling. You'll see the dwarf, which is a dwarf elf mix. It's not your typical world.
That is cool.
So, yeah, we want to take the weird stuff, the fun stuff that we do in our home campaigns and put it into a nice box set like everybody did back in the, well, TSR did back in the day. I don't know many other companies that did a full box set outside of Judges Guild. I want to take our setting, put it into a box. So in the box, there's 2 books. There's one book tells you about the world of Durban. It just it goes in details of the only locations we've marked, which are the cities, the large towns, and specific locations like this tower over here that has a reason why the tower's there. Then it goes and tells you a little bit more about the world geographically, about the different regions, weather, all that. Second book is the big one. That's the one that has, at this time, 20 races, 10 classes, 10 monsters, although we might jump that to 20 if we reach the stretch goal, or we might just do it just because. And optional rules for OSR play. And a few new spells.
Sweet. Monsters are always good.
The monsters I really want to highlight bringing in, because we already did a book of these for 5th edition before we stopped our 5th edition line, was the Ionic Dragons. In the past, there was we've had the lawful dragons. We've had the good dragons, the bad dragons, the neutral dragons. There were no chaotic dragons. We created the Ionic Dragons as a chaotic dragon family. Every dragon is chaotic, somewhere in the chaos spectrum. And they all deal radiation damage.
That's cool.
Which is one of our new rules that's optional, because parts of Durban are more like a post-apocalyptic wasteland in some spots. I mean, there is a large chunk of it that is still a fantasy world. You have a whole gothic forest over here. You have winterish dwarven kingdoms. You have, your plains, your hills, your normal forests, deserts, but there are some swaths of land that are irradiated.
That's cool.
And just wasteland.
So, can your characters gain mutations?
Yes.
Sweet.
There are, and it's random rolls. There's good mutations and bad mutations. It's a random roll what you're going to get.
Oh man, I need to go get this now.
And there's also spells to try to counter radiation. There's a few magic items to help protect against it, but they're not common items to find. It's one of those things where if you're traveling across it, it's almost like in the video game series Fallout. You're gonna run into bad areas. You're gonna need to find a way to get out of them and heal.
That's cool.
And in these irradiated areas, also magic does not work normally in them.
Interesting.
Magic will sometimes fail. It'll sometimes amp up, and it will sometimes give you an exact opposite effect you wanted. It's really strange how it works.
Sorry, fighter, I can't heal you right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't heal you, or I healed you and gave you hit points beyond what you have. Yes, it does weird thing. Or you go to heal the fighter and your enemy gets healed. Well, what just happened? I don't know.
That's cool.
That's the die roll.
I like random stuff like that.
It's a lot of randomization. And then also in that box set because it is truly a box set. I mean, I have the box right here next to me. There's a box there. It is a box, and in it, it's not just those 2 books. There's also 5 maps. There's a massive world map that is 36 by 24. Shows all 4 continents and how they relate to each other. Then there's 1 map for each continent. Those measure 24 by 18 and already have a hex grid printed on them at a 30-mile scale.
Nice.
So you've already got that. You don't need to sit and figure out. You just count your hexes all the way up. And then there's also an introductory adventure for first level characters coming into the world. Not much doing with radiation. It just is, to be honest, it's the only first level adventure that I had laying around in my writing because most of the stuff I write is 5th level to 20th level. I stick towards, I go a lot in the high end of it. So, because there aren't many adventures out there for high level characters. So I try to fill that gap. And this was one that I had for first level. And I was like, well, we can use that as the starter and we'll go from there.
That's cool. I think there's getting more and more. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way I perceive, but it seems like everybody I know writes adventures from mid-range to high range.
Well, yeah, I think it's
soon we might need more first level adventures.
we might. I mean, I look at it that back in when TSR was producing games, a lot of the adventures were written low level. There weren't many over 10 or 12.
That's because everybody retires at level 9.
Yeah, so now everyone needs something beyond that, because while the rules say, yeah, you're not supposed to progress past this level and these races aren't supposed to play these classes, I don't know many people who actually listen to those rules. I know we don't. We don't. We have 30th level Elven Rangers. That's not supposed to happen at all.
Right.
We have them in our home sessions because we threw those rules out the window decades ago. So we make higher level adventures, but there is going to be a point, where there aren't going to be enough low level ones. And I'm trying to think of some new ideas that would be low level, and I've got a few kicking around, but I've got other things on the plate first.
So now let's get into the part that I find most interesting, and it's only happened recently, but I have said, like, this is my show. This isn't necessarily a reflection of your company or your product, but I've said, like, I even did an episode one time that I'm pretty sure I entitled it "Don't Be a Dick," and like I've said, the Kevin Long Show supports Black Lives Matter. We support everybody, because at the end of the day, like, your table's going to be empty or your table's going to be miserable. So, like, I've always said, like, inclusion, and I think people get so caught up on most tables tap out at 6 people. So you're not going to have, like, even if you are inclusive, you're not going to have everybody at the table because they're not going to fit. That doesn't mean they can't have a seat at the, I don't know, I'm losing where I'm going. But the moral of the story is, where is the hang up on this setting being produced and the idea that everybody is invited to the table?
That's what I'm struggling with. In the last 24 to 48 hours, I've had a lot of negativity thrown at me privately in messages or as a public comment on one of our ad runs for Facebook that mentions that we're an inclusive company. We make our product in the USA. We want to have it shipped to everyone in the USA and Canada by Christmas. Like, we're going to ship to everybody before the holidays, but we can guarantee US and Canada will get it. We cannot guarantee the other countries will because of customs and slow boats to places and stuff like that. I have gotten a lot of flames fired at me, and I don't know if it's coming from which part of that, or if it's just the inclusivity part, because I know I gained a lot of what they call in the wrestling business. I gained a lot of heat when the TSR 3.0 stuff happened over the summer and everything with Ernie Gygax, because I went right at Ernie because Ernie and I were friends. And I went right at Ernie about it, and we had an argument. And from that first night that happened, I started getting private messages on Facebook firing off at me, vowing that my company was going to get shut down.
That's horrible.
And they're going to tell all their friends not to buy my products. You know what, though? Last 24, 48 hours, it's come to mind that, yeah, if this Kickstarter doesn't back, we might not survive, and it could be because of that. However, I like being on the right side of history. Like, make that perfectly clear. I like being on the right side of history. In my mind, I was inclusive at my gaming table before that was a word. To be inclusive, I've had more female gamers or more people identified as women at my gaming groups than I've had straight white men. That's just how it happened. I've had to have DM'd regularly in groups over the years. We're seeing like 85 different players have played regularly in campaigns with me, and maybe 20 are straight white males. I've just never gotten along with them. I don't know. But that's just how it worked out. I've had people of every gender, every race that, I've been around, because Northern Michigan, there isn't much of a broad difference when I lived up there, but there was some. Every sexual orientation. Sit in my house and play. I don't care. I don't care who they are, what they are. We're here to game. We're here to play.
Right.
I want to play a game. If you want to play with me, cool. If you're going to sit at that table and belittle other people at that table for who they are, or if you're going to use the game as some form of platform to boost your ideology, like, let's say you personally are a racist person and you're going to act racist towards a specific race in the game intentionally, I don't want you at my table. If you're going to, well, what's the old gaming aspect, a really old one of the whole rape and pillage the village.
Right.
No, I don't want that at my table. I'm sorry. You can go play that with your friends that are outdated. I don't do that. We don't do that. That's not how my table works. I mean, do we do some off the wall stuff? Yeah. Does my private group, without my two youngest kids, do some really off the wall stuff that would belong in Cards Against Humanity? Oh yeah, but we're also a close knit group of people that have played together for 15 years. So, we're very comfortable with each other. But we don't put that into anybody that hasn't played with us. We don't bring that side out. It's like, no, we're just going to tuck that away. We're going to play a normal game because we want to play a game and you want to play a game. I don't get why we have a blowback for saying that we're inclusive. I don't, because that's what gaming is.
Right. And you can't say that you're inclusive and then blow back on somebody else that says it. Because I know that was an issue. Like, we're inclusive, but we're going to give somebody else crap for not playing. Like, if you're not inclusive the way we're inclusive, then you're not inclusive. And it's just really frustrating to me that there is that thing. Like, why we say we're at the table to play a game, but we can't even get to the table to play that game sometimes because we're too busy fighting with each other. And I've always had this belief that we could change the world if we wanted to. just the way we
We
think,
could.
the way we do business. Like, we could, however, if we wanted to. And clearly we don't yet. And it's just frustrating to me.
It is seriously frustrating when I'm sitting here and I'll be going through social media and I'll be saying, I'll see people, and it goes both ways, because like, I'll throw it out here right now. Politically, I'm not either side. I'm right in the middle. Because that's just how I am. But in a gaming sense, I'm the same way. If you're cool, I'm cool. We'll play. But if you're gonna go and spit at somebody because of who they are outside the table, I don't want anything to do with it. And I see it all the time on social media. People saying, we're not, you're inclusive, but you're not including us. You say you're inclusive, but you're not including us. Well, did you do something to personally deserve it? Maybe that's it. I mean, back when all the stuff happened with TSR 3.0, I unfriended Ernie Gygax on Facebook. I did not want to have anything to do with Ernie. I went to PhoenixCon. He and I had a long discussion. He and I cleared up everything between him and I about it. Do I think he worded some things wrong? Yeah, he probably worded things wrong, but he honestly is a nice guy. And I saw people that were trans playing with Ernie, having a great time. He did not treat them any different than anyone else. It's just, I don't think Ernie really knew what to say. And so I've forgiven him a bit. Would I sit at a table with him? Maybe. That depends. I mean, I had like a 20-minute conversation with him. It would take a little bit more talking to get to that point. But there are some people that are huge supporters of his that I never want to see at my table ever. And these are people who have, like I said, blatantly attacked me in private messages. Where it's like, no, I don't ever want to see you. I don't care if you buy my product or not. Because personally, I don't want your money. You're not a nice person. I like nice people, is what I like.
No, I agree 100%. Nice people are good. Well, now that we've gone down the dark tunnel, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
I do think it's important because, again, why, if you don't want to buy a product, don't buy a product. Leave it at that. I had an encounter with a guy last night about his feelings on pro DMing, and I'm just like, why?
I saw that.
Why are you getting so upset? If you don't support it, that's cool, but don't start attacking people because they don't have the same belief on you, especially something so stupid. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world because people take money to be your DM.
I fully support pro DMing. Actually, I did that for a while. I live here in Columbus, and before I worked at this place, there's a place called Cladaw Irish Pub, which all Cladaws are now gone, unfortunately. But I was the executive sous chef there.
Nice.
And before I worked for them, the GM hired me to be a DM to run sessions every other Sunday. And the bar paid me. The players didn't pay the bar at all. It was a gig where the bar paid me because I would give a game and the people that would come into play would spend money at the bar. Which did happen. My players were spending easily a few $100s per session on food and drink. And I got paid decently for DMing 4 hours out of every other Sunday, which was great for me. It was a blast and I miss it. But yeah, I don't see a problem pro DMing unless you're being that dick that's gonna be like, I'm gonna charge you an insane amount of money per hour.
Right.
And this is when I can fit you in, and only this time.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's like, okay, you're going a little too far. But like Tim Kask, I'll pay to play. Actually, I promised my entire team we'd do his Tim Kask Wheel of Blame, which you can do and pay to run a session with him virtually now. And
cool.
I'm all for it because it's like, well, it's an excellent game. I've run in it before. It's fun. It changes every time. You know, I'll pay to play that. Sure.
Sweet.
Not a problem.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we say mahalo and have a great day?
I gotta say that I'm really hoping that this Kickstarter goes. That's like my big thing is my big focus is if this Kickstarter gets backed, we're gonna be able to do so much more next year between conventions and what we can put out, what we can't, what we have in plan, what we have, goals we have in plan. I mean, I've got a sheet here that runs something every other month for a release through next year and into 2023 if we get backed.
That's awesome.
Because it's not just because backing this Kickstarter is not just backing that. It's also going, hey, look, we're going to be able to put out a ton of new OSR stuff. A good chunk of it adventures, but there's still a 300 plus monster book that we have planned for next year. A mega dungeon that's probably the size of Arden Vol, which I've never read, but I've heard is massive. This one's over 1,000 rooms.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got so much stuff sitting here that is lined up and ready to go. It's just more this Kickstarter. We give you this, and this funds the beginning of our year and gets to put out a bunch of products. And by mid-year, we'll be rolling good. So I'm hoping it can get back. I'm hoping people look at it and really think, okay, let's give it a shot. I mean, we wrote the Disco trilogy. It can't really be that bad, can it?
All right, let's get this done. So for me, myself, and this time Joe too, mahalo and have a great day. Again, thank you for listening to The Kevin Long Show. You can find us on Facebook by searching The Kevin Long Show. You can find us on Twitter at The Kevin Long Show SH1. Or you can interact with us directly at thekevinlongshow@gmail.com.